Hi, mateys. It's Captain Hook from WDBF Radio. If you're tired of walking the plank, waiting on the record companies to make you wealthy, look for the treasure in another place. Uru App. There's where your treasure will be.
Hey everybody, it's John from Rising Sun Music. I'm here with my great friend, Steve Kimmerling, a.k.a. Captain Hook.
Yep.
From WDBFradio.com and WDBF.FM. I got it right.
That's right.
Anyway, so I wanted to talk to Steve because, we're doing a lot of things together. We have done a lot of things, period. But recently we've been, stepping it up because we care about what's happening in the music industry.
Yep.
And he loves music. He's a musician himself. And so we're having fun with this. And actually, we were just laughing a little while ago because we did a voiceover. So anyway, I want to ask you, this is a simple question, right?
Yeah.
What got you into radio? I mean, how did that happen?
Well, I've always been interested in radio, and even when I was a young kid, I would call in to different radio stations, and they knew who I was, and because I'd be a regular caller. And then I started calling in on it was in Miami. It was called a Jerry Winchner show, and it was an overnight show. And he was a pilot, and I was just going through flying school at the same time.
He's a pilot too.
Yeah, and I used to be. I'm a retired pilot, but I would call in and I'd say, "This is your captain speaking," and he would know exactly who it was, and then we'd have a good conversation. So it started out with me being a regular caller, and then a few years later, I had friends that I was playing music also, and had friends that were disc jockeys down in South Florida, the popular stations, WSHG, the Gator, not the Gator, what was it? The one with the gorilla, 97 GTR.
Oh, cool.
And that was, and in fact, we used to play on every Thursday night was 97 GTR night down at down in Hollywood Beach, and so we would go down and play every Thursday night for WGTR. So that was that part of it, and then on the talk side of it, later on, I had friends that were doing talk radio. And about 2000, I guess it was 2005, I was filling in for Dick Farrell on
I remember
Byron Eggers, and I were filling in for Dick Farrell. He had gotten jury duty, and every other Tuesday he had to go to federal jury duty. So we would fill in, and so that became a thing, going back and forth. Then he got himself in a little trouble, and he called one of our ex-presidents a bad name, and he got suspended for a little bit. So there you go. More of it came in. And then I started filling in on other shows.
Isn't that interesting how that was destiny?
And once, I guess they figured out back then I was a lot younger and I could talk pretty good. Mm-hmm. And so I'd fill in for them and whatever. So lo and behold, in 2012, midnight of when it turned 2012, WDJA, which was what was it? WDJA, yeah, WDJA, which was the old WDBF station that was owned by the Knight family, who owned Miami Herald and all that sort of stuff, right? They got sold to a Latin station, and the station that I'd been filling in on, everybody kind of dispersed. So I took the talent and a lot of the substance. I still have the old albums that were running there with Skitch Henderson and Ray Otis and stuff. We still play those on the radio station. That came with it, and the talent, and I moved it all up here, and that was a terrestrial station down there. I didn't have the funds or whatever to buy the terrestrial station or to upkeep them. The upkeep for an antenna and power plant and everything that goes there, plus the staff that you have to run it, is just under $500,000 a year.
Wow!
So to do that, to make that all come together, it was really tough as far as advertising goes. And then that was in the Palm Beach market, and
Your overhead's too high.
Overhead's way too high. So what we did, we moved it up here. Just the maintenance on the transmitter was $100,000 a year. You know, so that was including you had to pay for the rent for the tower to be on and all that stuff. And the tower was on a golf course, and so they demanded quite a bit of money for the rent for the tower, and you know, and then you had to maintain that 700-foot tower. It was just too much. And so what
Which
I
you could
did,
probably lose in a hurricane.
I took it all, and this was back in 2005 when streaming was just starting. We were basically one of the first stations to start doing 24. A lot of people had small little pieces and stuff, but we were the first station to be 24/7 and operate like a real radio station, only just on streaming. And we partnered up with TuneIn and a couple other streaming services to be. A lot of people had hour shows, this and that, but we were the first ones to have 24/7 continuous radio. So, and we did a lot of live in-house stuff. We were, at that point, I was syndicated with Fox, and so we had a lot of stuff from Fox. As the years went on, Fox wanted me to start paying them for each individual show. That wasn't going to happen. We'd get back to the same thing. The overhead was just out of control. And so what we've done now is pretty much do all our stuff in-house. We have Sid and Friends in the morning from New York, from WABC. We have them. And then we have Alex Jones and what was her name? I'll think of it in a second. Brianna Morello. We have her at 10 o'clock till noontime. And so those are syndicated shows that we bring in. And then from...
To fill in the spots, right?
Yeah. That was during a weekday. And pretty much on the weekends, then we have our Rare Book show with Steve Eisenstein.
Yeah.
That comes in on Saturday. So that's an
He's
in-house
a very
show.
cool dude.
That's an in-house. We've had a lot of in-house shows. You and I had a show on for years. We had Born a Musician.
Yeah.
And we interviewed a lot of different musicians. I mean, over the years. That was about 10 years ago we did that. Maybe 7 years ago or something like that. But that's just...
Time flies.
That's just an idea of what you can do in-house with your own streaming radio station. So,
and that's kind of how we joined together.
That's
with this project they're working on now, which is the Uru App, which is on uruapp.com.
That's right.
I thought it was great that I was very happy that he wanted to join in with what I'm doing, because it's I was looking for passionate people with music, and he is definitely incredibly passionate about it. And then we have fun. We're laughing all the time, so it makes it even better. Yeah, telling jokes and stuff like that. When we did the radio thing, that was hilarious. Right?
You never knew what was going to come up because we always had different...
People came up with stuff like we're interviewing musicians, and then they're coming up with their stories, and then it was hilarious, Yeah. But and then I started to focus more on the studio because I was doing Born a Musician. That didn't work, but it taught me a lot. And that's where it got me to where I'm at right now, what we're doing. So, and then that's how we were doing the radio thing to do what we're going to do with Uru, same thing. Right? It was Born a Musician then, now it's Uru App. But Uru App is different. I don't have no partners. The only partners I have is sitting right here in front of me. And all we want to do is positive stuff to help musicians. I don't want anybody from the outside influences. Right. But the cool thing about it is that the fact that he has all this radio experience, it really helps. It's going to be an incredible, how do you say that, asset to the musicians. Yeah. Because we've talked about this, about doing interviews of different artists and stuff like that. And it's probably going to grow into something, a lot bigger, We know that already because we're looking at the analytics and checking out how certain things affected. So we're, today we met at the studio brainstorm and said, man, I'd love to interview you, So, other question. This is probably going to be a two question interview because it's pretty straightforward, right? Yeah. Let me phrase this correctly. Where is the future of the radio industry? I mean, where radio is going. You think it's just going to be all podcast streaming, or because
I think
podcast is like a radio to me.
I think it's a mix. For a long time, we thought that AM/FM was going to go away because streaming was taking over. But every AM/FM station now is streaming. Every one of them is streaming. Mm-hmm. They also have a streaming side. So, and the nice thing about that is, a hurricane comes along, as long as we have power and internet, we have a radio station.
I was getting ready to say those towers,
and those towers are a problem.
Scary.
It could take years to rebuild those.
Right.
And don't want any part of that. Although the one nice thing about I would say the difference between terrestrial and the streaming thing is audience participation on call-in shows. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more with terrestrial radio because it's very local. We don't really have that local flavor, although we do shows from Miami, Palm Beach, and here. Mm-hmm. That the local we're more international. Half of our audience is international,
right?
And we have a huge audience in Europe, Germany, and Australia. Canada is a big audience.
It's like my music. It's remember when we did the video, "Do You Want the Worm?"
Yeah.
Most of my listeners were from Russia, from Philippines, from different places that wasn't even here, and that's why I tell a lot of young artists. I say, don't focus. It's okay to be local, and it's great if you're a local hero. I don't take that away from anybody. But if you're not, for whatever reason, don't doubt that somebody might like you somewhere else, and that's usually how it happens. I mean, all the big bands, if you really think about it, they were liked in other places more than they were liked in their own. Mm-hmm. They've been releasing a lot of Beatle stuff lately, the Rolling Stones, because I figure they think, well, they're up there. You know what I mean? They're not.
They're not getting. Plus, it circles
I can't even
back
believe
around.
They're still doing it. You know what I mean?
Right. It circles back around. I can't tell you how many times in my lifetime when I grew up with Grand Funk Railroad, used to pick them up at the airport and stuff.
Right.
And grew up.
That was one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, and how many times that their music has come back around again. Well, I can count 3 times in my lifetime that has cycled back through a next generation.
You want to know something? When I first heard Grand Funk Railroad, I bought the first record. It was in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I bought it, right? They loved them in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Because of the bass player.
Yeah.
They really liked Mel,
Mm-hmm.
and it was interesting because they liked the drummer, and it was, but
Donnie Brewer. Yeah.
But for some reason, they just really liked Mel. You know what I mean? That guy plays bass like killer, and stuff, because you didn't see that many animated bass players back then.
Right.
Right? They always played more simple, more.
Right. Well, they didn't even focus. Well, that's what I play is bass. Well, nobody focused on the bass player. They were always in the background.
And then this guy came and he did his thing, which was a lot different, and he was, putting fuzz on the bass and all that stuff. So he became huge. So, usually people sometimes make it in different places that nobody, and that's the beauty of what we're doing.
But some people might like it here, where people don't like it. You know what I mean? There's a niche for everybody somewhere.
Right. And we just realized, because, I translated, the website is translated now in 6 different languages, including English, right? And we're starting to pick up people from France, which is interesting,
Guyana.
The Guyana one. You know what this dude said to me, and I started laughing. He said, "Yeah, dude, that's where they killed Jim Jones, man." Because I told him
Jim Jones, but he says, John says, "Why do we got 31? We got 31 people with us in Guyana." I said, "They got nothing else to do." But that's just
a joke.
That's just an example of the laughter that goes on nonstop.
When we first did the pirate thing, it was crazy. So anyway, I know this is a weird question. Let me ask this, right? How do you? Because we're not young anymore, right? And this is that one of those questions, okay?
Yeah.
How do you feel about legacy, or you do things ever think about that? Because when you get a certain age, you say, I'd like to do something, leave something that's important. Does that ever cross your mind?
Well, I've done quite a bit.
Here it comes.
I've done, to be honest with you, I don't give a shit. That's for other people to determine, not me.
You want to hear something? Charlie, if you're hearing, one time I asked Charles Glenn, because little Richard passed away, God bless his soul, right?
We're talking about Charles Glenn, who's the bass player for Little Richard.
Because I love him. He knows I love him, right? So I asked him, I said, does it ever cross your mind? What is it going to happen? And he goes, Johnny, I don't want to talk about that shit. Let's talk about music, okay?
Yeah, you don't want to think about the end, that's for sure, but legacy, that's for other people to decide.
I don't care about that.
You've got such a body of work. It isn't funny. You're incredible. This new song coming out,
right?
The Gypsy. Samurai?
Well, what happened was I
is it Samurai Gypsy or
Samurai Gypsy? Yeah. Okay. And what happened was, my wife is Japanese, so I lived in Japan, and I studied martial arts. And then one day I was, I just came up with this lick, dun 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 dun. I thought, that's pretty cool, and that's how it started. But what made it really interesting was I did this really crazy guitar. It's like very, very kind of it gets under your skin.
Yeah.
And then we developed in that, and then I met Alejandro Medina from Puerto Rico, and he played violin. And I spoke to him last night. I said, I got a surprise. You're going to be surprised when you see this because he doesn't expect this, right? But anyway, and he's like, oh yeah, let's do it because he wants to work with me again. Amazing violin player.
Are you going to have him put a violin lick on that song?
He did. That was him playing all the violins on the, that was not just guitar. That was violin and guitar. But he plays electric violin, so, it's got that kind of a feel. So we wove it in together. When I worked with him, I said to him, and he wasn't fluent about that because, it's obviously, he's Puerto Rican, so he's plays a certain way, more classically probably trained and stuff like that. And then what happened was he said, I said, what I'm looking for is like this gypsy thing, And I even sent them a clip from the movie Queen of the Damned, when Lestat is playing the that little gypsy kind of stuff. And then he got it, and then we did it, and it was amazing, So then, and I want to thank Zach Davis on drums. He killed it.
Yeah, he did.
And I had a special.
That's why I asked you who played drums on this. And it was Spyro Gyro.
Yeah, Geraldo Velez was. He did the djembe on the song, and it was interesting because I asked him to play congas, and he said, John, I think there'd be more if we could do it more like with this. Djembe is like a Middle Eastern instrument, so he's like very. And it kind of. It actually, he was right. It made it.
I'm trying to think what that looks like.
Well, it's a drum. That's in the corner there, that little gray one. I know it's about like this tall. Mm-hmm. It sounds very ceramic sounding. You know what I mean? It's because it's got that thing where you do like with your fingers.
Oh, I got you.
So he played that, and the interesting part was that he had found out about me, and because I did this tribute to Jimi Hendrix, which you've heard it, right?
Yeah. Where are you, Jimmy?
Yeah, where are you now, Mr. Jimmy? So anyway, the thing was, he came, and we recorded it. And then, I don't know, like 6-7 months, then the people from the Hendrix Foundation contacted me. And I was like, I always wondered if it was him, but we did the song and came together. And, he brought a poster of, which is on the wall, of him playing the congas in Woodstock. So he played with Jimi Hendrix. He's got a pretty interesting background, you know what I mean? So I will be contacting him soon because I want him to send me a picture, and I'm going to try to animate it, and turn him into, samurai gypsies,
Mm-hmm.
So, but other than that, that's pretty much it for today, I guess. I can't think of any. I got lost with Geraldo. Forgive me, but I forgot your name for a moment. I wanted to make that I pronounced it correctly.
Geraldo.
It's Gerardo Velez.
Yeah.
Former member and founding member of Spyro Gyro.
Yep. And
he played with Jimi Hendrix. He was a very close friend of Jimi Hendrix. So he did an interview with me telling him about. And I said, I'm a big Jimi Hendrix fan. He goes, no, really? Because he could say how animated and excited I was.
Yeah.
But stay tuned, guys. We have a lot of interesting things coming. This is just the beginning.
That's right.
And then we have a laugh. We have to hold back from laughing sometimes. That's why
That's right.
I had to try to get serious,
And tune in to WDBFradio.com.
And WDBF.FM.
And WDBF.FM. And go to Uru app.com.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
And it's on Apple Store, at the App Store, and Google Play.
See ya, matey.
See ya!
Your music, your money, your business. Uru is the only tool you need to turn your performances into income and your passion into profit. It gives independent artists the power to sell directly, earn immediately, and control every part of the process. If you're ready to stop hoping for sales and start making them, this is your moment. Visit uruapp.com today and start selling your music directly to your fans. Once you're set up, you can continue managing everything on the go with the official Uru apps available at the App Store and Google Play. No middlemen, no barriers, no excuses, just you, your music, and your success. Powered by Uru.